I really want this conversation too, you know, so.
Yeah. You will have it. All right, it's recording. It's recording now. But all right. I am here with Mr. Hans Comyn, who is currently in Medellin, Colombia.
Yes.
Yeah. So I met Hans on one of the programs that he runs. Hans is deeply involved in the world of relationships, seduction, and leadership. And as a student to these things, and I was really attracted to the program that he ran, or the mastermind, as it were, because it was, in one sense, inviting a group of guys together to explore the idea of leadership in your relationship together as peers, as brothers, and share the maps that we've created and explored with your peers and brothers as pirates on the wild oceans of the unknown. So
the last frontier of humanity, or our own relationships.
Yeah. So do you want to say a little bit more about that? Like, why for you is it the last frontier? What draws you to this?
I really think that man's or humans' ultimate challenge is relationships. It's not outer space. It's not, the real discovery, growth, transformation, joy, beauty is in the way we relate to other human beings, our lovers, our women, our husbands, our brothers, our family, our friends, our community. And it's uncharted territory in the sense that, yes, we have been relating, but according to my calculations right now, 90% of traditional relationships end badly, with at least one of the partners saying, I don't want you anymore in my life, and it's incredible, because at the same time, relationships are the number one predictor of our happiness and health. This is a scientific study. They followed in Harvard people for 75 years, and the number one predictor by far, of our happiness and health is quality relationships. Nothing matters more. It's more important than what we eat, than our genes, than where we come from. Then nothing matters more than quality relationships, both for our happiness, which we see that, and our health. You live longer when you have, and better and healthier when you have quality relationships. And so there's a discrepancy there. It is so important, and we fail at it so miserably. And I wonder why that is, and I wonder what we can do about it. And I think the number one thing we can do about it is start with applying our work ethic to it, our focus, our dedication, our time, our money, or stories, is sharing with other people. Just look at it. Because up until now, it seems that for relationships, we kind of think, certainly romantic relationship, we're going to meet the right person and live happily ever after. And we kind of seem to think with the same about all of our relationships. It's just the hope for the best. And it's insanity, because if we would have a space program that way, we would have given it up a long time ago. It's just crashing. It's just, but yeah. So that's I'm endlessly interested in relationships, and what makes a relationship a quality relationship. And after many years, I have some thoughts about it, what are important parts of it. So hence the mastermind. And yeah, it's a delight, like, sharing with you and the other guys about these things, growing in it.
Yeah, thank you. So one of the big things that you've explored, one of those branches of relationships, is seduction. Can you speak a little bit about what that means to you?
Well, I first say what it's not, because I do know in the West, right? Seduction has a rather negative connotation, like the art of leading astray. It's very manipulative, but that's not. They don't use it in the same. Well, in Spain also, but for example, in France, seduction has a way more positive connotation. It's just a way of interacting. It's they would say there, for example, that the president is seducing the people, and it's a good thing. It's a win-win for everyone. You know, he does it well. They're happy. Everyone wins. You know, and so for me, the seduction really is the art of making the other feel alive. And by that I mean, on the one hand, it's the other feels felt, seen, and heard, which is our number one craving. Once we have food and shelter, we feel felt, seen, and heard. And on the other hand, um, you allow the other to dream, to be like, "Ah, there's something else there. There's an allusion to something greater that we can be caught up in, something more beautiful, something more grand, something more romantic, more adventurous, more beautiful." And if you, those two things, if you can give that to someone, is the greatest gift. Because when I was seduced, I was, you know, it's just the most beautiful thing in the world. And I never thought of the women who seduced me that they were manipulative. I never think of a song that speaks to me as manipulative. I never think of a landscape that brings me to tears just by looking at it, you know, that it's manipulating me. But there is something there that I feel I belong, you know, I have to be here. This is for me in a way, you know, and and I'm allowed to dream, you know, when I hear a song that when I remember hearing Mark Lanigan, you know, and discovering his work, and it's like, wow, it's like he's he made this music for me, you know, or even Old Dirty Bastard, you know, the rapper. I know you like hip hop more. I really felt that, like, yes, this guy speaks to me, you know, and he's exploring something further of a world that I know, but you know, I cannot articulate, or and he does it, and I'm like, yeah, he's seduced by it, you know. I feel recognized, and I feel like I can go further. And so that is, to me, seduction is the art of making the other feel alive. When we are seeing and when we're allowed to dream, we feel very alive. And so it's the greatest gift. It's the greatest gift. It's the creation of beauty in the interaction, you know. And yeah, and a fantastic art, you know? I
Yeah,
don't know if that answered it.
yeah, beautifully put. Beautifully put. I think to kind of tie this a little bit into the work that I'm doing with creativity, I think you know, there's a real parallel there in that when you feel creatively alive, you know, it's kind of a similar feeling. You're seducing yourself in a way. But that's part of the thing here, that a seduction, the gift is allowing, or you know, inviting someone to see themselves in a way that you see them, or you know, and giving them something to rise to. And that feeling of being able to break out of whatever boxes you've been living in and live a totally different adventure. And I think that that is, you know, quite similar to our creative ambitions. You know, we have these daydreams of what we could do in life as a creative endeavor, you know, and we're seduced by this idea of ourselves. And when we meet other people and they show us, they mirror to us that they see us in that way, you know, that can really do some amazing things for kind of, you know, for your self-esteem, for your sense of where you can take your ideas. There's something, yeah, if you want to say anything to that, go for it.
No, I read something yesterday about two candidates in England, Disraeli and another. This is ages ago, you know. And the woman was saying the first candidate, you know, after I talked with him for an hour, I, you know, I felt, wow, he's the most interesting guy in the world, you know. And when I talked with Disraeli, who's known as a great seducer, you know, she said after talking an hour with him, I felt like I was the most interesting person in the world, you know, and that's seduction. You know, that is seduction, is to be able to, yeah, give that, you know, and let the other person see themselves in a, feel alive and see themselves in a light that's bigger than the most of the stories we keep telling ourselves. You know, it's a fantastic thing, because you see yourself, you reflect, you mirror it that way, and you want to aspire and live up to that. You know, so I think it's a very beautiful thing, and a very empowering and, yeah, necessary thing.
Yeah, I think there's something huge to that as far as transformation goes. There's this, it's hard to beat, but the kind of myth of the self-made man, or, this desire that we want to go off and become the hero and then return. And, this is part of the hero's journey in a way, but as Joseph Campbell describes it, but I don't know his work very intimately. So my interpretation of where that goes wrong, as far as we see it, is that we feel that we have to go on this journey alone, and that we have to set our expectations for ourselves and achieve them alone, and only come back to share the fruits of our discoveries with the tribe, with our people, once we have become. And, and that, in a way, that we miss out on the huge power of other people and community on that journey. Because when you're in this seduction, when you're in this exchange, you want to live up to it. And these are all kind of, I guess, basic, the way the brain works. It, like, you talk about something and then you want to live up to it. But when you're seen as this person, you want to continue to be seen in this light. And so in a way, it's a way of uplifting yourselves collectively, and I think one of the traps that so many relationships fall into is that beyond the honeymoon, when you start to gain, you can kind of take these, you had a word for it, the false winning, it's like no one wins, you win this
victory.
Yeah, so it's like you get into these back and forths in relationships where so much of the original spark has gone, and so really you're trying to win these small victories that leave the other person feeling wrong, or something like that, and in the end you both lose. And I know that in my life, as I've matured and seen that those pitfalls, and really the opportunity to try and maintain a sense of beauty between, and harmony in all of your relationships. And in a way, it's a creative act, in the sense that the beauty may not always be there.
Yes.
And that,
like, it's, go ahead.
Well, and that becomes this co-creation of, like, if that's your aim, you have a choice to live in that space or otherwise. And the only thing between you and that, where you could be, is this gap of the unknown. And you can walk that together, and you can create something beautiful. And it just takes, a little bit of courage and a little bit of creativity to bridge that gap and reseduce each other into a space of beauty again.
To me, when you're talking, I'm reminded of, like, or no, I would like to speak that, to me, it's really a gift. Meaning, like, when you talk about the hero's journey, I think it's a huge, very important part. Meaning, you go for what you want, you set your goals, you go for it, and you accept that you're alone in that, and you go hard, and then the seduction is almost like a gift. It's an act of grace. Remember, like, when there's a beautiful woman, and she loves you, and you want to live up to that. It's a gift, and it's an invitation, and so you can't really demand it or ask for it or work for it, or all you could do is gift it to someone else, and all you could do is also seek to be seduced, put yourself in places where this can happen. But it's not acquired, it's not attained, it's not a victory, it really is a gift. And so like my way of loving is trying to give that gift as much as I can to people, to the world, you know. And it is my, without expectation that I will be seduced, you know. But the bigger journey for me is really seeking to be seduced, you know, put myself in places that this could happen, you know. And this is often for me, my path is the one of like, I have goals and I go for it and I do that, you know, and I will be alone and I can't expect anyone else. And I give the gift of seduction, you know, and then, you know, it's up to the universe or God or that beautiful woman or the landscape or the song, you know, to seduce me. And that happens or it doesn't. But it is always a gift, you know. You can't, I can't construe it. I cannot
Mhm.
construe it, you know. I could just try to pick it, you know, go and look for it. That's all I can do. And yeah.
Yeah, I love, this makes me think of something you've said before is, uh, go for what you want and life will give you what you need. And,
Yes.
I think there's gonna be this constant paradox explored in this podcast series of the inability to really go towards the outcome, or at least what you get is not the outcome you're after. And the more that you focus on that, the less attention and awareness you're gonna have for what is actually unfolding in front of you. Um, so yeah, there's
Maybe yes,
something.
but it's also at the same time, I really think it's, you know, you have to do it. You have to do your short-sighted, you know, human dance, you know. You have to go for what you want. Then and only then you can get what life will give you what you need, you know. And it's that's my experience, you know. That's my experience, how I keep going for things I want, and very dedicated, disciplined with various degrees, you know. And then what I receive is something completely different, you know. And I really get a sense that it is what I need, but only because I went for what I wanted, you know, in all my short-sightedness and ignorance, you know. But it's essential. It's essential to do it. That's how I experience my life. You know? I don't know if that's the same for other people, but that's really how I see things.
Yeah, well, I think to me that says something about like we need to act. Like all change is going to come from some sort of action and taking steps towards something. And our wants and desires are the most compelling thing to step towards. We have our fears that hold us back from stepping towards anything. But the only choice we have is to really go towards what we want. And I think that there's a lot to be said about that. And even I think that journey of understanding wants is a very personal one, in the sense that the evolution of that exploration may likely go, or will include elements of society, what society tells you should want. So that's one of the things that your real wants, if there is such a thing, is maybe going to be sewed into the fabric of other things that maybe you don't want so much once you actually start getting there. But I think the only way is to start exploring and discovering, and not to and then also not to get hung up on is it right. Do I want the right things? I think that's one of another crippling element of
Yeah.
going towards anything in life, like questioning yourself, is it right, whether that be morally or just as an objective. Is it gonna provide you what you want? I would like this situation, but maybe that would leave me in an insecure position as an adult.
Yeah, 100%. And that's very much learned, you know. William Burroughs said, you there should never be a discrepancy between what you want to do and what you think you ought to do. And I get that, you know. I was just telling the story when I'm introducing the idea of a secret realm of seduction, like a parallel universe that's existing out there, to which all women belong and 1% of men, you know. And it's a world of conspiracy and nonverbal communication, language of women, all of these things. I tell the story of, and it ties back in what you said, the second guessing. When I was a kid, I remember I was much better with girls as a boy than I was as an adolescent. And I go back to the stories, and I see myself like, you're one with your desire. There is no reflection on it or second guessing it. I remember this girl, Stephanie, and it's good. That's what I'm saying about it. Is how the world works. I remember this girl, Stephanie. She had a red bonnet. Still today, I'm about 6 years old, and I was just enamored by her. And I still have her smell in my nose. I still know how she smelled, and I was just, I feel that strong desire, and I'm running after her. And she goes, ah. And I catch her and I give her kisses on the bonnet. She had a red bonnet on. I'll never forget it. And she goes, and but liking it, or I mean, there's no hesitation in me that she's liking it, because in that world, your desire and attraction is very symmetrical. Is nothing like, because there's no second guessing. It's a real bodily, visceral experience. So I'm kissing on the hat, on the bonnet, and it's beautiful. And the next day, her mom comes and tells me, Hans, you cannot do that, okay? And I remember thinking, what, huh? Did I do something wrong? And it wouldn't have entered my mind until the mom said that. And I think we learn that way. We learn to feel shame around their desires when they're the greatest informant of where we want to go at this point. They're completely constructed, and they're changeable and all of that, but they're the great informant of what's next for us in terms of like happiness and fulfillment. But we like disconnect from it over time, and it's huge if you can reconnect with it, if you can. And everyone has it, I would say. Like, sometimes there's a bodily knowledge that's way beyond this. Like, I don't know if you ever had a feeling that someone is watching you, and you look back and someone is watching you. What is that? That's like, is that, there's a bodily knowledge there, because it's sure not here. It's not in the eyes. It's an energy. It's a feeling. Your body knows. And so just to reconnect with that, I think would make, would make relationships, would make the creation of art, would make the world a much easier, fun and adventurous place, because it's a beautiful place to be in.
Yeah, I really, it's so interesting, the introduction of shame, and in a way, there's this natural unfolding taking place. And until we step in to intervene, like at what layer, at what level is that childlike play just an unfolding, like a natural unfolding of what human children do, without any other layers, and it's the adults that freak out in a sense. There's something you said earlier about an element of this happening by grace, and I know that when we've spoken in the past about transformation, and it's, again, it ties in with this thing that you go after what you want and you get what you need, but what you need is almost graced just simply by the fact that you're working, you're putting in the work, you're showing up, and you're graced with experiences. And so the actual transformation, there's something, I highlighted it from a previous talk we had, and you said it's almost happening independent of you. And, I know that you work with lots of people and young men, and I think that there's I think it's easy to have misconceptions about what this transformation is. You know, again, it's this outcome, it's this destination. And that's fine as something that compels you to get off the starting line and start moving towards something out there, something more. But I'm curious, just in your own life. So I'll talk a little bit about what I know of you. You know, you're someone who comes across extremely enthusiastic, and this is one of the most infectious things about, you know, one of the most seductive things about being in a Zoom room with Hans Comyn is he's just brimming with enthusiasm. You ride, you know, you cycle daily. You're ambitious. You're traveling the world. You're diving deep into relationships and seduction, and you're also a musician, and so you've created an album and these. You know, I think this artistic life, you know, this is one of the reasons I really connect with you, for sure. And like, yeah, maybe if you could speak a little bit about that process, because it's I think one of the most important things that we have to persevere in any creative endeavor, and, you know, life being the one, really. You know, we're not going to have a stable job, which is becoming more and more unlikely as the ages change, that we really have to be able to rely on ourselves and have a deep sense of self-trust. And I think that's something that, you know, you embody in what I've seen and, you know, and what I know of you. But that road is also, you know, it's not without its turbulence. So I guess yeah, maybe just speak to that idea of, you know, how you see your creative journey, because I know that it's not been without, you know, some difficult times, and what has allowed you to return to that self-trust and enthusiastically keep persevering.
Well, to me, the enthusiasm really is a stand. Is not an emotion. Like, it really is. I think I do write it in the book. Like, the success of any endeavor is a direct reflection of the enthusiasm with which it was undertaken. You know, so it's not like I am, like anyone, happy, sad, angry, frustrated. You know, I have all the, if these are all emotions, but I have all the emotions. You know, I've been very happy. I've been extremely sad. I've been borderline depressed. I've been all of that. You know, but when I undertake an adventure, or when I undertake an endeavor, then enthusiasm is of the essence for me. You know, so which means I will look for the things that make me enthusiastic, and I will also do anything what I do with enthusiasm. There's a very active role for me to play in that. You know, and it's, I mean it very literal, that the success of any endeavor is a reflection of the enthusiasm with which it was undertaken. Because when people ask me about my album, I got 3 now, you know, and we talked about my first album, and whether it's good or bad, my idea of that album is it's great, and the reason it's great is because I had so much enthusiasm for it. And I really mean that. It's not like, oh, it's good or no. Like, it does not matter what other people think about that album, independent of my enthusiasm, you know? It really is the greatest album I could make. And I'll stand for that. I don't have any hesitation about saying that. Like, it's a great, great album, you know? And my third album is a bit less, because I had a lot more trouble with Christopher and I. We had a lot more tension, you know, and you can hear it on the album. But the same with the book, you know. I was talking about the book yesterday, and a lot of people, when they create something, like, they bleed, and they, you know, and my writing of the book, if I look back at it, was a joy from the first second to the last one. I never felt like bleeding at my book, you know. Maybe I was, but I enjoyed it, you know, and I was enthusiastic about that. And I think it's a real practice to be enthusiastic, you know. Find the things that make you easily enthusiastic, and also be enthusiastic as a stand, as a way to show up in the world, as a gift to the world. You know, it's both. So yeah, I mean, and that doesn't mean that every step of the way is gonna, you know, you're gonna be enthusiastic. You know, it's a practice, and sometimes you fail at it. You know, and but my greatest works, I was enthusiastic from the beginning to the end. So
yeah. So with that, you know, I love the way you put it. And, you know, I think enthusiasm as a stand rather than an emotion, it speaks so much to what it is to have a practice. You know, to have a practice is to show up with enough frequency to call it a practice. And I know that, you know, one thing that I love about that is that enthusiasm isn't an outcome. You know, enthusiasm is only a process. You know, you have to find something to be enthusiastic about, and it's a way of approaching the situation, a way of approaching, you know, a person or a, you know, an idea that you have. So one of the things that you know, I've worked with quite a lot of having to overcome in a way is the sense of needing to optimize or make the right moves, you know. And it's very hard to be enthusiastic if you can't, one, trust yourself that you're doing the right thing, or, you know, or if you're too invested in having to make the right moves so that you're trying to save on energy, you know. Even that, I really believe one of the most powerful things that we can tap into in the creative process is just our joy. So these are all sort of synonymous in a way, you know, whether we feel enthusiasm connected to our joy, whether in a flow state or not, like that is the most important thing, regardless of all the other stuff which can be kind of packaged and sold, whether it's types of workflows or how to organize your writing station, or, you know, all of these things have nothing to do with the actual, you know, showing up and doing the work. And yet showing up enthusiastically is the one thing that is going to keep you finding the things that you can be enthusiastic about. And so it reminds me of something that Taleb says, where he says, you know, if you stop enjoying a book, then stop reading it. Just don't stop reading, you know. And so yeah, there's so much there that I think is hugely beneficial about, you know, find the stuff you love and then show up until you stop loving it.
Exactly. And find the stuff you love. Like, I really want, like, for me it's a stand, also enthusiasm or joyfulness, but the beginning is really like discovering it. Like, there are enough places to start of the feeling of joy. You know, when I was making music, just, you know, the feeling of, like, you put a couple of chords, you know, and you hear the progression and you can feel it. This is right. There's no, it's not like you're not, or I'm not thinking, oh, this is, I should make a different record, or I can hear, I can feel my body is telling me yes, you know. And then you find certain words, and I work, for example, first more with sonority, the sound of the words, than the meaning of the words. And I think that way, and there's an aesthetic to it that instantly says yes to me, you know. So I don't have to second guess it. It's right there, you know. And then you start seeing what are the things that make me feel this way, and you cultivate that feeling, you know. And you constantly do this. The same with the book. The book has the form it has. I've never seen a book like it in that format, and it's not something I planned. But when I'm writing and I see it, I say yes, you know. So that touchstone really is a bodily sensation of, like, this is right. This speaks to me. This makes me feel alive. This is, I don't know what it is, you know, but it is. it appeals to me in some way. It affects me in the right way, you know. And so, and then you can cultivate that more, and that's a real proactive moving forward, and that's where the stand comes in also. But there are enough touchstones when you go back to the body that will tell you what direction to go next, you know. There's just like, yeah, it's such a beautiful thing when you discover things like that, you know, when you discover that I enjoy making these chord progressions, I enjoy putting words on that, I enjoy writing about this in this certain way, I enjoy sitting on a bike and suffering up a mountain, you know, and just stay close to that feeling. There's so much already that your body is screaming for, you know. So yeah, I think that is more important than what I said about the stand, you know. Like you said, it's more like a keep showing up till you don't have it no more, you know. It's a not disregarding of that bodily knowledge that is trying to tell you something, you know.
Yeah, and I love this idea of aliveness. I mean, it's, you know, it's the same as, it's like all of these things are gifts into an otherwise mundane life, and when they come, we want to, you know, sometimes we second guess them, and I think it's that this sort of art of knowing how to invite it in, or, you know, how to make the invitation so that when it shows up, we're actually in a place to receive it.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's something else, you know, when we've talked about your book in the past, you've also described it like your album is, you know, this masterpiece for you, and more
Yeah.
so than your album. And I think another concept that you embody so well is like being sort of so much on your own side that
Yeah.
it's, you know, I think you embody this quality very humbly, and it's a pleasure to see that embodied. But, you know, I would imagine maybe there's even doubts within yourself now and again of like, oh, am I a bit delusional for thinking my book is a masterpiece? And I think this is something that, as artists of all sorts, like, we have to kind of get over the fact, or even embrace the delusion into, you know, in some way, the fact that we may be delusional, and that's maybe even part of the process. It doesn't matter. We need to embrace what feels right for us, so much to the point that, like, we can't dissuade ourselves, because if we don't have
Yeah.
ourselves on our own side, then there's no way that our art and our creations and the
Uh-huh.
seduction can continue, you know.
I would say I'm very happy that you say humble, because a lot of people see it differently. A lot of people think I'm arrogant, you know, and I don't think so at all. I really think I like my ego is not in the picture when I say that. Like I really feel I don't second the greatness of my book, for example, not at all, because I really sense that I tapped into my genius there, meaning what I love and what I have to offer, you know. And it's not like I don't need accolades for it, you know, because I do think it's a normal human process and that everyone has it, you know. It's not and yes, I'll say I don't second guess it, not at all, because it's like in our society people are saying when people talk great about themselves, it's like it's a bad thing. But you know, everyone has genius, and when you tap into that, it's a normal human way of going about things, you know. Like when you hear Dali, you know, and people think he's an asshole in a way. I love the part when people say, you know, I'm a genius, or that part of me is genius. This is great, you know. It's nothing diminishing by speaking that, because it is true. And I want to be in that presence, you know. I want to be in the presence of people who who are connected to their body, to their greatness, to their genius, to their creative power, which we all have, to their seductive power, you know, to create beauty, which we all have, and it's just tapping into. And there is nothing arrogant about that, and there is no second guessing because I know the joy with which I was doing it. And I know that how it felt, as if it was like coming through me, that I was not inhibiting it, second guessing it. So actually, when people second guess it, that's when the genius diminishes. That's when the greatness of your book or your music or will diminish. So, like, yeah, I never doubted the that my book is a masterpiece, and I promise you, I say this without the 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 slightest bit of ego, because I don't care if people are gonna like it or not, because I know how it felt writing it, and I know when I look at it, how I noticed that it came from something, that I let go through. I let it go through, and bah, it's there. It's the same with my first album. I remember hearing it on the train from Berlin to Belgium after I created it with Christopher. Shout out to Christopher. Thank you so much, man. And I was just crying the whole way, because I felt not that I created something incredible, but I was part of something magical. I was part of it, and I did everything a human has to do not to intervene with that magic. You know, I did that right. I did it right. It's the same with the book. I did it right. It's the same with seduction. When it's great, you don't intervene with the magic that's bestowed upon you. That's granted to you. And so, yeah, no, I've never second guessed it.
I love it. I love it. You couldn't have elaborated on that point in, in a more beautiful way. There's something about that second guessing as well, which I think, so much of the second guessing comes from the analytical mind in a way. And the sort of the shadowy, this almost like the undercover agent that wants to appear like it's on your side. This part of you that wants to analyze and maybe protect yourself, or say there's a better way of doing something. Even that, there's a better way of doing something that can sound like a great piece of, a great voice to have in the back of your mind. Something's telling me there's a better way of doing something, and yet it has to create doubt in the way you are doing it. And so, with second guessing, I think so much of this again is about our obsession with knowing the outcome, or knowing the right outcome, or knowing the least painful outcome. If you're in a seduction, you're in an exchange, and you start to think about, well, is this the right thing as far as the future goes? Maybe we're not going to be aligned tomorrow. Maybe we need to figure out, this is a rational process. Are we actually in the right place in each other's lives to make this make sense? Do we fit together rationally at this moment? And this is to do with a linear timeline about different components of your life. Are the checklists, are they matching up? Do you fit together? And once you go into that place, you take all of the magic away, or you risk losing a lot of the magic. And that's not to say there isn't a time and a place for those things, but being willing to explore and be a collaborator with the magic unfolding, and trusting that the two of you can go into this dance. And when I say the two of you, that could be you and your creative project, whatever it is, it's the same. It's so much of the same force at play. And as soon as you start to doubt it, it will create doubt in the other person. No matter how much you're attempting, that doubt comes from a place of, oh, no, trust me, I want this so that no one's going to get hurt, or this and that. It's like the fact that you're even putting some of the brakes on to have those thoughts is already hurting this, this unfolding. And I really mean it when I say that can is the same in the creative process. Like, once you're second guessing that, you're losing energy to something beautiful. And the muse on the other side, or the work on the other side. Yeah, it feels.
And there's a place, like you said, for both of them, but it's almost like you have to do everything in your power to keep him separate, you know. When you're in the flow or in the zone, or when you are creating, there's no place for reflection at that time, you know. The reflection comes after that period. That's how I would see it, you know. The reflection, integration is after that, you know. And it's the same in creating something. The more you can, it's like it's like a wave, you know. When you're surfing a wave, you know, that's not the time to second guess or reflect on how to surf waves, you know. That's there, and there's a place for that, but it's probably on the beach, you know. And it's a kind of, I incredible. Yeah, you make me think in different ways, you know, because you go to a place where you are seduced, where you are in the zone, where you feel flow, you know. You like, i've I've been there, you know. And even the observation of it, you know, the the observation of it often leads to second guessing or reflection, you know. And to learn that observation is maybe the most beautiful point there is, because you're not just in the flow, but you know you're in the flow. And thank you, you know. And then not to edge over into like reflection about it, you know. That is the I think, when I'm just thinking about the most beautiful feeling, when you are aware that you are in the flow, when you are aware that you are seduced, that you are in love, you know. And then not go further. Just stay there, stay there, stay there, you know. And then I never thought of that, but I could see it now.
Yeah, I can also I'm also getting a sense of what
Mm.
that looks and feels like. So, all right, one second. I'm going to pause it and just put a blind up because the sun's coming in.
Okay.
And then I'm back.
Mm. I like this, man. This is great.
Good. Yeah, man. It's good. Okay, so I think an interesting place to go from here is mistakes. And this can be just what do we do? What do you do? How do you conceive of? How do you respond to mistakes? And there's going to be lots of different sort of threads to this. So feel free to contradict yourself. If one thing applies in one context and in another it wants to sound a little differently. But the reason I think this is such an important and not really discussed in completeness, I feel like, is because mistakes they're just part of the process. They're part and parcel with the process. They're intrinsic to being human, is this sense of mistake, so much so that it almost seems redundant to even give it a name as a mistake or an error or a failure. It's like suggesting you could do otherwise, which is not the case. They're unavoidable. And so it's what is important is how do we respond to it. And so I'm curious in interactions, in relationships, again, this feeling that we can so often get graced with a period of inspiration, and the words just pour out onto the page exactly as we present them later, or an exchange with someone that goes beautiful, the honeymoon period, this period of time where we're kind of graced with and blessed with a no mistake zone, if you like. And then stuff happens, we lose our cool, or we overthink it, and we second guess it, and a mistake happens. So how do you conceive of mistakes, and how do you kind of respond to them after they've happened?
Yeah, I noticed in my life that I've been, like you said, I'm very much on my side, I have to be, at least me, but and it has part of that I'm super forgiving of myself, because I make mistakes every day, you know, and there's not an there's not an hour that goes by without me thinking, shut the fuck up, don't talk so much, you know. and and but you know, I'm very forgiving. I'm very forgiving of me and my mistakes, and I think I I don't know how it is for other people. I'm thinking, working with a lot of men, that this is a real big hurdle and a point to work at, you know. And it's that being on your own side, accepting yourself, loving yourself, you know. And to me, it came very natural, and I've been given it by my parents, you know, my father Jacques and my mother Lucrèce, who always who never as I look back, I never felt like I had to fight for their love. I never had to prove myself in any way. You know, they loved me of who I am with all my, you know, annoyances, and there was a lot of conflict, but I could always feel that they were never trying to change me. They were never trying to. I never had to fight for their love. It was there, you know, and I always thought it was normal and natural. But I see now more and more that this is a very rare gift that I've been given by my parents. You know, most children have to fight for their love in a way. You know, have to do something, become someone, or yeah, work for it. And yeah, it's I do not know the experience of reclaiming that, working for like self-love, but I do know it's a process for a lot of men, you know. And I see it in the way that they are unable to forgive themselves when they make mistakes, because it's just like you said, it's just a matter of time, you know. It's just it's every day. It's every day I regret something, you know, but I don't sit with it. The next day I don't have it no more, you know. It doesn't linger. I don't have guilt building up, you know. And yeah, I think I've been blessed with that. You know, I think it always came natural. So I'm not, I don't feel like I am to speak of how to do that for other people, because yeah, I think most men and women have it much harder than I have in that regard.
Well, I think, this is the second podcast I've recorded today, and I asked this a similar question to my other guest and friend Skinner, and forgiveness was the thing that he said, and it's the first thing that you followed with. So I really do think that there's something so important there, and forgiveness is from a place of emotion, like self-love and looking after and care. And I think often the formulation that we hear of when we talk of failure is, well, learn from your failures, learn from your failures so you don't repeat them again. And my experience of the information sphere out there is that so much of it is built on the analytical, built on the sort of the rational mind. And that's a perfect example of it. It's like learn. And what does that mean? It means engage with critique on what happened, analyze it, what went wrong, and you stay in that place. And I really don't think, again, it's not the time. You're still in the wave. At that point when you make the mistake, you're still in the wave, and you may not, if you forgive yourself, you may even be able to catch it again. If you start analyzing it right there and then, it's just not the time. So I think that there's
That's so interesting. You say that. Continue. I'm going to keep the thought.
Yeah, well, more or less just that. I think it's more and more, and I'll go into this after your point, but the skill set of self-care, and it is a skill set. It's like it can be learned. These are tools that you can apply, and they need to, they can be practiced, and you will, you'll get kind of better results in a way. Your life can improve by the soft, gentle kindness that you can apply to yourself in whatever these endeavors are. and I think the endeavors of real importance are ones that you really care about. And so they're the only ones where the stakes are high enough where it must, you must care and forgive yourself. If you can forgive yourself for making a balls up at work, then that's one thing. But, when your life's work or genius has visited you, or, the love of your life potentially, all of these interactions, like, practice on that stage, practice self-forgiveness and care on that stage. And the rest is nothing after that, because you're so much on your own side that you can walk through all the mistakes in the material world for all of the other things. And it's inconsequential compared to what you've learned to, learn to look out for yourself in a completely, a setting of higher stakes and meaning for yourself.
What a great thing that is to give to the world, that you care for yourself, so others don't have to do it. You're doing it. It's like it puts the Sartre quote, which is huge to me, is in a different light. It's like, a man who chooses for himself chooses for all men, and a man who chooses to take care of himself. What a great thing to do in community with people, that you're already doing that. That nobody else has to do it, that you're not expecting anyone else to do that for you. You are already taken care. So I'm here, this is taken care of, and whatever else I do with you is a gift. I'm not asking anything. I look what it is that I want. I look what it is that I want to create, and I'm here, in fully, wholeheartedly and complete already. And but it's such an important practice, such an important. It's too far now. It's too far. I'll go anyway. But we were talking a couple of weeks ago about relationships, and when I got it back, and when the shit hits the fan in a way, and your older woman brings up something, and you have a tendency at that moment to go in analysis, to think about it, to argue, when maybe in those moments, to not move, to just be, to not address it, could be the greatest relational practice you can do. Not try to solve it. It's a great thing to do. It's a great, and I've been certainly guilty of trying to analyze and argue. I remember, I think it was Abraham Hicks who talked about, like, whenever you have problems, what you could do, two great things you could do is take a nap or pet your pet, your dog, or and it may sound insane in a way, but I've practiced it, and it's true. The problem just goes away, instead of like looking at it now from all angles, and it becomes bigger, and I'm not saying you shouldn't address and talk, and but there's a great power in not addressing, and letting it be, nap on it, or and then sleep on it, and then a lot of things go away instead of, anyway, to be explored.
yeah. I mean, it's so interesting, so interesting. I think of so one experience I had with a friend of mine in Ecuador. I was helping him build his house, a guy called Talbot, building a mushroom farm out in Ecuador in 2012. And we were doing a little extension on his kitchen, and where the previous one had ended, there was now a kind of tree trunk, a fairly small tree trunk in the middle of the kitchen, and it's one of these things you would never design it like that, and if you were, I fall into this trap of wanting to do the most efficient expenditure of energy on my land, because I've been, brainwashed into thinking that that's a good idea on some level. I'm like, okay, I want to get it right the first time, because double handling stuff and doing it again and coming back and changing it, it's just not worth the energy. And that's true. If you're trying to run an industry and you can find a way how to chop off 30 seconds of every single thing that you're doing, and you're going to repeat it for the next 20 years, then that's a real worthwhile endeavor to take. If you're creating an individual piece of art, or an individual moment, the worst thing to do is try and be efficient, because this only exists once. And so I realized this in the moment with
Wow.
with Talbot, where I was looking at this tree trunk in the middle of the kitchen as pots and pans started to be hung off it, and all of this stuff, and I was like, this is amazing. This is the feature of the kitchen.
Uh-huh.
And there was no way that had we initially thought of the kitchen being this size, that it would have taken place like this. Impossible. And it's a beautiful, unique element of this whole experience. And so, yeah, the sort of a point there is, well, I'll let you pick up on it, because it sounded like you had a sort of penny drop aha moment.
No, but I see it now again. It's like if there's a role for us to play in this cosmic dance, to get to the point where we're graced with what we really need. How far, like it's almost like we have to look how far do we play that role, and when is the time to surrender, and are we trying too hard, or are we not doing enough, and yeah, I could totally see the doubts in that, because we want it so much in a way, to be seduced, to be graced, is it coming, I'm ready, I'm ready, am I not doing enough? And you kind of like, it's wow. There's no, what we're talking about, there's no how-to in it, I don't see really a how-to in it. We're very on the edge here for me, and I'm exploring this with you, but it's a very existential exploration right now for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I like how you say that there's no how-to for this. It's something that I've thought about, of the billions of how-tos that you find out there. I think, I mean, this may just be a little quirk of the way that I see it, but I'm like, this isn't a how-to, this is a what-to. What do? I do this, I do that, I do the other. The how can never be explained. The how is your job. That is about you, and no one else can teach you the how, because only, you can go through the what's. I can copy the way someone, my master carpenter teaches me how to do the joint, and I can copy what he does. But the how of, like, how do I cut the joint? That comes through my own exploration and finding myself within the process.
Eric Fromm, I think his book was called The Art of Loving, but I'm not sure of the title. But he said exactly that, He says the how-to of loving, it stops the moment you're, at the encounter and are there to love. You could talk about it until that point, and then it's all, everything's out the window, and you hope you haven't integrated it as much as you can, and then it's a whole new thing. It's an encounter, and the encounter means there's a surprise element to it, and the surprise means that whatever you're prepared, there's no, like, you won't know, there's no protocol in place yet for this, and so, yeah. What a blessing, what a blessing that is the case.
Yeah, I really enjoy how you talk about the encounter, as being this, this moment, to see things as encounters, and I think that's another way to approach so much in life, is to have your eyes wide enough to see the encounter as an individual experience in and of itself, not a repetition in a sequence of events that you've seen before.
Yeah, what's the unknown part in this?
Yeah.
What's what's different, and do I not know how to deal with this, but do I have the confidence that whatever that is, I'll manage it. I'll know how to stand here. I'll know how to do this.
So where does that come from? Let's talk about the unknown, like your, being willing and confident to stand in the unknown, but know that you can respond to it. It's almost.
Well, I think it ties completely in with what we just said in the beginning. Is like the trusting of oneself and one's body. It's like that is the how-to. If ever is, like, the how-to is not this moment is like this and it requires this and this and this. No, the how-to is whatever that is. You got and you show up, and you be part of that encounter. And wow, I see the whole conversation is coming together. And you will be part of it. And when you do it well, you won't really intervene with it. You'll do your part in this dance, and you'll do what is required from you. And it's not about you. It's the role that's needed to play. And what a beautiful thing that you've been invited to be that part, be part of that. And so, and yes, you could trust yourself. You got you. And now I don't know, what I will do, but I'm there. I'm there, and I know that I have what it takes to play my part in this. And that's where the trust comes from. But it's completely independent of the situation and the unknown of that. It's just, how to carry yourself, how to contribute to it. And I think that's where the confidence comes from. The confidence of that, like, whatever you throw at me, or whatever, I'll be okay. I'll be okay, because I got me.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting one about contribution. I think we find so much meaning in this idea that we're contributing, and it's a necessary part of the sort of being a part of a human fabric, is feeling that we have a place, and an ability to contribute. And and again, in some ways, I think what we're touching on is that you don't need to even be able to, like, the context changes so rapidly, and there's actually this idea that I'm exploring of one of the benefits of mediocrity is that in a constantly changing landscape, rapidly changing landscape, if you optimize too early and then the whole situation changes, then you're not, you're gone. You're a goner, sort of thing. You've over optimized for an environment that no longer exists. And so the example of this might be the T-Rex, or these big Spielberg dinosaurs. And this Venkatesh Rao, a writer, explores this stuff. But yeah, he talks about when the meteor happened, all of those Spielberg dinosaurs, they were way too optimized for that environment, and now they're gone. And what stuck around was the mediocre dinosaurs, the ones that had wings or whatever, and they became birds. So they're still here. And so there's this idea of, the value of not seeing what you can contribute, and again, in this sort of analytical way of what are the strengths that I can double down on so that I can shine in this environment. But I think this deeper layer of being like, maybe if you look at me across all the things, you think I'm quite average in some way, but I can put me in all of these situations and I have something to contribute. Of that, I'm sure, and I think this is, again, a really valuable part, or a message that I think is important to hear for some people, that you are already enough. If you're, if you're listening to this and you've survived this long, you've been around on the planet this long, like, you may not be able to answer the question of what am I contributing, but you are. you're
Yes.
alive, you're breathing, you're exchanging, you've had moments of insight, you're sharing them, and just that is enough. And to trust that and sort of double down on that is what is gonna, overall,
Yes.
I think, see you through in the long run. And
It's so interesting, like how optimization comes at the cost of adaptability, and this might be the greatest gift, the adaptability wherever I am in the world, wherever social situation I'm in, whatever I'm who I'm talking to, the ability to to hold on, you know, is yeah, it's like the adaptability. I'm thinking again of Burroughs, and he had this concept of el hombre invisible, invisible man, and it really relates to this, just to like fit in a way, and be part in different ways, and have the ability to fit in, and in many different situations. And I'm very attracted to that. Although I stand out often as well,
yeah.
Mm.
So, wow, I mean, maybe a little bit more on the unknown specifically. Like, what does that mean to you? What does the unknown mean? Apart from, I'm just riffing with you here, so I'm not exactly sure where the question will take us. But apart from the fact that you have to trust yourself in it, like what is it? Because almost
For
everything
me,
is
it's
unknown. The idea is almost,
well,
yeah,
that's a way of looking at things, for sure, But I'm very interested. Like I've always been wondering how it is that we can be like completely content, happy, fulfilled where we are, and there's a constant desire I have at the same time of like what's around the bend, what's oh, I just, even with my bike, I go right as no, I go there, no, I'll go well, after that turn, after that turn, and you want to explore, I think it's very, or I do, I want to explore, I want to know what else is there. Jerry Seinfeld had a great quote about men, and men don't want to know what is on TV, they want to know what else is on TV. And there's a truth to that. You could see that negatively or very positively. It's the exploration of what's next, what's possible, and that's invariably a moving into the unknown. So yeah, it's a very beautiful thing to go, for me to go into the unknown, and get a chance to see what I'm made of. Like, am
Mhm.
I trust myself that I can do this. Is it true? Let's go. There's, I think, yeah, that's the adventure, I guess. Is the going into the unknown, and I feel it. I can only say that I have that very strong desire, and it's very fulfilling when I go there. And when my life has not been adventurous enough for a while, I can feel it. I can feel the call of adventure, going into the unknown in some way, and yeah, and satisfy that desire.
Yeah, I really like how you talk about the, when you're on your bike and oh, maybe I'll take that turning, or and I just wanted to sort of highlight that because you're in motion, and there's another form of unknown of like, oh, I don't know where to go before you've even got on your bike, and this sort of analysis paralysis of trying to make a decision of what this cycle ride is going to look like before you've even got on the bike.
Yes.
And just being in motion is where the gift is. It just changes the whole experience. So
it's like talking to women. Guys think, oh, what should I say? What should I? No. What should I do? How should I stand? I should study before. No. Approach first, calibrate later. You show up first, talk to her first, and then start thinking of like, if this is a girl you feel, if your body is saying, wow, I like that girl, you know, talk to her first, and then start thinking about what you're going to say, how you calibrate, how you should stand, you know. There's huge power, you know, because when you don't do it, it's like you say, you know, analysis to paralysis is just, you find many reasons. I've discovered it when I was coaching men how to talk to girls, you know. When I was going into the issue of like, a guy said, I really want to talk to her, but I'm afraid. And I was trying to find ways for him to overcome the fear. Every time I found something, he would find a reason why it's not working. And I'm like, I'm just feeding it even more, you know. And you got to say, approach first, talk first, calibrate later. If not, you don't really want it. It's okay, you know. It's not a problem, but don't make me complicit in your own analysis of why you're not doing it. You know, you just don't want it, and that's cool. Or you don't want it enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that kind of goes back to, you know, honoring what you do feel, you know, and maybe if you do feel, and this is the other thing, like if it's too big a leap, then you don't need to take it, you know,
No,
and that's really,
exactly.
really important. I think important to recognize, because the whole metaphor of a leap, like if it's too big and you fall, then that can hurt, you know, and you
Right.
can take time to recover from that. And choosing a leap that you can take is a valuable endeavor. And that's the other point of really knowing how to listen to yourself. You know, I remember seeing a personal trainer once we were doing some TRX stuff, and he was pushing me into some crazy, you know, I was like, no way. And I hurt the next day in ways that wasn't just, you know, good aches and pains from having worked out. It was like, how, you know, that's a violation, you know. And that's the other thing. Like, I think be very careful. One thing that I've learned, like, be very careful about your inputs, you know, because if people don't know, well, no one knows, you know. And people, I think it's valuable to honor where people are at and like leap with them on jumps that they're willing to make. And this whole idea of Kaizen, with like taking really small steps, like all of these are big ideas and stuff, and what it actually looks like to start a new creative project or whatever. It's like you can leave this conversation and feel fully inspired, but you still stare at a blank page, and the
Yeah.
first thing you have to do is put the pen to the paper before, you know, it's what's the
It's
smallest
like
I can take.
it's like everything is about, like, we're seeking to be in flow, to be seduced, to be in love, you know, to and all of the other things are like, are we doing the right thing? Are we doing what's needed? You know, because I mean, looking at it, I don't trust myself, you know, like, not at all, that I will make sure I get what I need, not at all. Like, yeah, if I think about cycling, you know, if I go alone and train and I have my powers that I have to train and I could do it, you know, is great. When I go race and I'm with people, if there's something there, I'm pushed, you know, and I will reap the benefits from it. And I would never go as hard as when I'm alone. Like, so I know I get to know myself, that I'm okay. I am going to be conservative in that way. So maybe I should put myself in a situation where I'm thinking at that point, this seems to go contrary to what you're saying, but it's not really, that I'm pushed over the edge, but just enough that it's not, you know, giving me all these aches the next day, but that I know, okay, this is more than what I would do if I'm on my own. So I put a number on my back, you know, I'm going racing, even though I know I'm going to be in so much pain, you know, I know that afterwards it will be okay. So I don't really trust myself there, you know. It's a bit whatever, you know. And
Yeah, it's interesting. I think, you know, it's all the context and where you're at. And for me, I found that embracing, well, so there's this trust, you know, this sense of, oh, what can I achieve, you know, and there needs to be some alignment or some dedication to reality, you know. And you don't know if you're overshooting or undershooting, and in a mix of a population, there's probably all sorts, but finding the level where you can actually show up and continue to show up, because I think that's the most important thing. And if you do have peers and do have support, then it's the whole picture changes.
Yes. The only thing that's beyond doubt is when you're in that moment of grace, then you just, when you're making that song and you just know, there's no doubt. You just know that this is the song. When you're in flow, when I'm in shape and that one race, or you go and you could just feel it, you're there, it's right there, you got it. And that's like, it's such a small percentage of the whole thing, because most of my trainings I'm thinking, am I doing too much, am I doing not enough, it's this constant not knowing, but once you're in it, once you hit that peak performance, once you create that song, once you write the book, and you, like, there's no denying, the moment you live it, you experience it, like, that's why I say with the book, that was to me a peak moment. There's no denying it. There's no, I will not make it smaller than it is, or when I want to race, I, you can't deny that, I won, I was the best, so there's no like second guessing that, and so that is the beauty. But as we look for those moments where we are creative geniuses, where we are in love, where we are in peak performance, where we're in the zone, that looking for is a constant, at least for me, a constant doubting in a way, is it too much, is it not enough, is it, where am I, should I do more? Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I think I think that's the other part of this whole thing, that these aren't fears to overcome. It's not to wait or to try and overcome the doubt or to beat the fear or to do anything. You just accept that that's going to be there, and you find a way to move, to paint, to write, to seduce, with that voice in the background.
Yeah. All man's work is a bloody business.
Listen, I think this is just about wrapped up this conversation. Is there any other things you'd like to just share with the audience?
Well, I feel a liberty from you to explore. So I've been exploring very edgy things that I don't even, that I'm inconsistent about and don't have the right words. But I really enjoy that. I really am appreciative of the opportunity to do that. I was talking with Esperanza the other day, and I thought, I redefined love as that, as the being able to let the other feel free, to explore and to play and make mistakes and be clumsy, And I feel that when we talk about these things with you, I got a lot of joy from it. So I don't know if you enjoyed it, but I certainly do. So thank you.
Thank you, Hans. That means a lot for, I guess, one of the impulses of having this conversation and the types of conversation I want to go on having is to challenge this sort of the interviewer and the expert model. I think that there's value there, but I think it's been done a tremendous amount, and there's other places where you can see those conversations. Yes. But I think it's really interesting when, we can just, I would like to speak to people who are just keen to show up and then explore those edges together, not because we're very familiar of how to dance on this, this well-trodden path that we've crafted, and what does it look like when we venture out and go together. And I think that, again, this is the unknown, and walking it together and exploring it together. And
this was my work when I did philosophy before, and this was exactly what we're talking about with Latour. Is like the school system is the worst there is, because there is, you know, you have a discrepancy between how the world is, or a binary opposition, how the world is and how we perceive the world, and we try to match it. But if you have that model and it's everywhere, you know, it also means you have experts, people who know how it is, and then laymen who don't know. And the teacher is the one who is the expert, and tells the the student in a way how it is. But that's the worst way of having of people learning. That's the worst way. A much better way is to gather around an issue we're both concerned about. You know? What is it that we like to talk about? Because we all have maps about it. We all have ideas, opinions, feelings about it. You know, and this is our, when we gather around something we're curious about. You know, that's how we learn. That's how we learn, and that's why it's so important to me too. Like, these are very advanced topics, and I don't have many opportunities to share with people about these things, you know, and have to fuck it up, because I'm thinking it 10 times throughout this conversation, you know, what the fuck am I talking about, you know? And then I'm pushing at something, and, and then all of a sudden the light goes up and I go, yes, this is what I was looking for, you know. That's thank you, you know. So yeah, it's fantastic, man. I very much enjoy it. I also think second guessing, you know, people listening, what are they going to think? You know, they're going to think these guys are weird. But there are going to be guys out there who like completely resonate with it, you know, and they say, wow, okay, that's the conversation. I want to be part of this, you know, I want to be part of this.
On that note, is there anything you want to talk about as far as the work you're currently doing, the types of things, if people want to reach out to you in any way?
I won't talk about the work. If you're looking at this and it resonates with you, you know, and you find me. My name is on the screen, I believe. Find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Gmail. It's my name. Find me and tell me why it resonated with you. You know, because I always want to establish a relationship with someone first before anything else. So reach out and let me know that you enjoyed this conversation with Nick, and that will be the start.
Excellent. All right, Hans. Thank you very much. I hope you have a splendid rest of your day out there in Medellin, Colombia.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.